Two dudes with attitudes, let's go. It's the two dudes and the attitudes, ruthless, aggressively speaking, so let's do this. With Ryan and Denton, they here to get your attention. The 5-star broadcast shit, start to the ending. Whether it's the E or it's all E. The two dudes with the attitudes to bring the heat. Get the point, yeah, it's on, time to lock in. Listen to the podcast where they get it poppin'.
It's Two Dudes with Attitudes, a wrestling podcast with your boy Ryan Enjoys Wrestling and the Heartbreak Dude Denton. And this is a special edition of Two Dudes with Attitudes. Where we are going to go over that Netflix docuseries about Mr. McMahon. And we're going to break it down, but the episodes were what they were. So we're going to do all 6 right here and just kind of give an overall general view and opinion and maybe even grade it at the end of what we thought of all 6 episodes. You watched it before me. I finished it last night. It's probably a little bit more fresh in my head. Yeah. But where do you want to start? What do you want to go with? I
enjoyed it. I thought it was a very good docuseries. I mean, they're always good. You always learn new things. But let's get into like the controversy behind it, because Vince McMahon came out of his social media hiding and released a statement the day before the documentary was released. So apparently he saw it in screenings, I guess, and was very unhappy with how he was portrayed. And, you know, it's just very, very crazy that he came out of hiding for really nothing that was revealed anything new. Like, it didn't reveal anything new or anything too alarming. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to pull up the statement now, but let's see. He wrote that, where is it? Come on.
And you mean anything new to non-casual fans.
Right.
So people like you and I, not really much new. Maybe there were some things that they broke down, like little details. There were some things in the Chris Benoit part that I was like, oh, okay. And on the Owen Hart part, which you'll talk about, I'm like, oh, okay. There was little things that I found out that I was like within a story, but nothing mind-boggling or blew my, well, actually there's one. I want to talk about the Trish thing, but there was some things that I was like, oh shoot, okay. And then some things that I was like, well, duh. But I think as a casual or non-wrestling fan, there's probably some new stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So he called it, he said that, I got the statement right here. He said the producers had an opportunity to tell an objective story about my life and the incredible business I built, which were equally filled with excitement, drama, fun, and a fair amount of controversy and life lessons. Unfortunately, based on an early partial cut I've seen, this doc falls short and takes a predictable path of conflating the Mr. McMahon character with my true self, Vince. The title and the promos alone make that evident. A lot has been misrepresented or left out entirely in an effort to leave viewers intentionally confused. The producers use typical editing tricks with out-of-context footage and dated sound bites to distort the viewer's perception and to support a deceptive narrative. In an attempt to further their misleading account, the producers use a lawsuit based on an affair I ended as evidence that I am, in fact, Mr. McMahon. He ended his statement by saying he hoped viewers would keep an open mind and remember that there are 2 sides to every story.
All right, so let's start with controversy. What do you think? Do you think it put him in a bad light? Do you think it put WWE in a bad light? Do you think it didn't? Obviously shit's edited. It's reality. Get over it. So what do you think? Well, let's give our opinions on that. What do you think? Anything?
So like you said, we got to take away that we were not the target audience for this docuseries at all, because we are dedicated, passionate, hardcore wrestling fans that knew a lot of this stuff going into it. But to the people that maybe were familiar with Vince McMahon and some of his shenanigans, but maybe they stopped watching wrestling, then yeah, I could see how this put him in a bad light, especially with all the, Bruce Pritchard in episode 6 talking about how, you guys didn't show the human side of Vince in this story. You just showed what an asshole he was. And, Mark Calloway, the Undertaker, saying he would take a bullet for Vince. And then literally 2 days later, the allegations come out of sex trafficking with Miss Janelle Grant and how he's forced to resign and how the WWE is coming up with a succession plan and all this. It was just it was just crazy how they were willing to go to bat for him, and then all these crazy allegations come out. So yeah, obviously it's edited and it was kind of distorted to look like that. But yeah, I mean, I could see how it put him in a negative light.
I think both of those people would still defend him today. I
Oh,
don't think that
100%.
changed. So that's what I was going to get into. So there were things that I think they did edit well, right? You don't. I don't think people understand because people just want their own narrative. And there's people on TikTok we talk about off the record all the time who just post things and put their opinions,
Yeah.
but it's 100% not true and it's stupid. You got to remember that everything is out of context. So even the parts of like Mr. McMahon saying like, oh, well, it's different. And I'm not the Mr. McMahon character. And then later on in like 5 episodes, he's like, well, yes, Mr. McMahon is kind of like a character and mixed in
He's
with
me to the he's me to a 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
All of those are taken out of context. You never once hear the question asked. You don't hear what's happening before he's saying it. So yes, I do believe with what Mr. McMahon is saying, or Vince, is that there are things taken out of context, but it is what it is, man. When you're doing a docuseries like that, don't say things that they might take out of context. You have to understand that no matter what. And he admitted on this show multiple times during interviews that he had where he blew up and got mad that he doesn't do that. And he thinks things are going to work well. And then he becomes this angry testosterone dude because he's filled with steroids and he blows up on people. So I do see that and how they take out of that. There was even a time where like, even the Pritchard thing, like you said, that you're going to tell me that wasn't timed perfectly. An Undertaker, I'll take a bullet. Pritchard, he's a human. He's
breaking news coming out of the WWE.
No,
yeah.
And then it said 2 days later. So why are you like, that's placed to make him look bad and to make those people look bad. But that's freaking life, man. That's how these docuseries work. You are going to believe what you want to believe and take what you want to take. Yeah.
And in his statement, he did talk about out of context sound bites and dated sound bites. And we talked about this on some of our previous episodes when we briefly talked about this docuseries coming out. Eric Bischoff went on the record and said that he was never interviewed for the Netflix docuseries, and he's all over it, especially in the Monday Night Wars episode that they talk about with the rise of WCW. And so, I mean, they used footage, I guess, of an old interview with Eric Bischoff. They use, Stone Cold Steve Austin doesn't come across looking very good in this thing either with some of his idiotic comments. But how long ago did that interview take place? Was that something that was done because he did an interview in this docuseries and said, I don't believe in CTE. CTE is not a thing, which maybe if he did that interview in 2007, when the evidence was new and you didn't want to believe it, then sure, I could see why he would say that.
But
but to say it in 2022, when we have more research and we have more evidence that supports that it actually is a thing and people are dying from it, then so I see his point about the dated the old sound bites and the out of context clips. So
Undertaker also said he didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
And then he said he was upset when Vince said to take it all away, but he understood. So he was a little bit better than Stone Cold in the fact that he was like, I get it. I don't believe it. But in life, that's
and then he goes and gets concussed in WrestleMania 30 in the middle of the match. And he wrestles with his lights out. Yeah.
And then Vince said he's not concussed, which is also weird because Vince is like, he wasn't concussed. So, but once again,
why'd you go to the hospital?
But was that taken out of context? Did he say, oh, he wasn't concussed, this and that? And then I realized he was concussed and I went to the hospital. So that's what I mean. That when that went and he said he was at the hospital helping out Michelle McCool, I was like, that seemed like an out of context remark again. And so, but here's the thing, right? I don't want to take it. I have never watched a documentary, whether it's something that I want to be on my side and something that I want that I think is against me, right? Like, so you're, liberal, conservative, whatever docuseries you watch, anytime I watch them, even when I watch the SeaWorld one, you know what I mean? It's like whatever documentary you watch, I watch it with the understanding that 50% of this isn't true. I've watched, so if you were going into the Mr. McMahon documentary thinking like, I'm going to find out 100% of everything, then you went into it wrong. But there were certain that you always have to watch it with allegations and opinions, right? Even the Ashley thing, the Ashley McCarro, whatever, with her being raped and not being told, and then, killing herself because of that. Like all of that isn't 100% fact. This is all just them assuming and thinking and this and that and whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, could it be true? 100%. And it's disgusting and it's sad. But at the same time, It's not like Ashley came out, to my knowledge, and admitted that that was why she did it. It was her family coming out after the fact and saying that was why. And that happened after all the lawsuits were happening. So who knows what's real and what's not? It's sad that she took her life because she was a beautiful human being and
absolutely
had a good career and everything else. And I think it's disgusting. And I'm huge on suicide prevention. You know what I mean? Just it's all around in my life. So I am 100% understanding that in mental health, you only need one thing. With our mental health, it takes one thing. That's it. One thing triggers our brain and we're done. So it could have been, but once again, nothing in here is 100%, right? I mean, everything is just views and beliefs and the way they're interpreting it. But with that said, do you think it gave WWE a bad light? Because WWE was so afraid that they were going to look in a bad light and all these stupid people online and, oh, why would they do this? I don't think it made WWE look bad at all.
No, I thought it made WWE
anything.
look good that they got rid of the guy.
That's what I said.
Yeah, they forced him out. They're knowing what we know now, like Hulk Hogan doesn't. I mean, I think some of the wrestlers with some of their out of context, video clips. Stone Cold Steve Austin doesn't come across looking very good by saying he doesn't believe in CTE. The Undertaker doesn't look very good because he says he would take a bullet for Vince McMahon. So in that case, no. But as an overall organization and a company, no, I don't think they look bad at all.
So here's another point. Okay, so let's just say everything Vince McMahon is being alleged of is true. Okay, let's just throw it out there, right? It's all true. Is it really bad for someone like Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, who have openly admitted that he's like a father to us? He has done everything multiple times. Shawn Michaels said, Trish Stratus said it. All these people in life, we support the things we love through the bad and the good. And just because they are saying things like, hey, we love him, we support him, this, even John Cena, who says it, has come out and said, look, and he got shit for it, right? Like, hey, I love and respect this man, but I'm going to wait to hear how all things turn out and not judge until things of, I've read these texts and this and that and blah, blah, blah. But he never, and he got crap for that. Like, you have children. If your child ends up becoming some terrible human being, you're still going to love and defend your child to the thick and thin. And I get it. Well, Vince McMahon is not really their dad. Yeah, but these wrestlers were with him more than they were their own family. And family isn't blood, man. Family is family. Family is a person that you love and trust and who you're with. You're not blood related to your wife or husband, but you love them dearly like they are. So I don't have a problem with all of them defending Vince McMahon. None of them have come out and said, oh, what Vince did was perfectly okay. I don't care. Like, yeah, he was sex trafficking. Yeah, go.
If they had a problem, if they didn't have a problem with it, he would still be there. And they quickly got rid of him. He's gone. WWE is thriving right now. I think there's definitely a reason. They didn't really get into it, but why Stephanie McMahon resigned from her position as CEO when Vince weaseled his way back in to force the sale of the company. I mean, obviously they didn't. I personally think it's because she didn't want anything to do with Vince. She didn't want to be around him. So I think it makes them look good in that light. And I think if they had a problem with it, he would still be there. I mean, if they didn't have a problem with it, he would still be there.
But I also like what Bruce Pritchard said about that, because the scum of the earth, Dave Meltzer, was all over this.
Oh yeah, he was everywhere.
Which I was why that's the other thing too that makes me think this is not as validated documentary as it should be, because you got Dave Meltzer. If you were really doing that much research, you would have done enough research on who I should have as a wrestling representative, and Dave Meltzer isn't it. Shit, go get that other piece of crap, Sean Ross Sapp. At least he tries harder. Like, you're getting Dave Meltzer, who is known on record as lying and falsifying things and not doing research, and you put him on there to give opinions. And it wasn't just history opinions. No, he was giving real opinions on backstage stuff. And dude, nothing. Shut up. So they did that. But Bruce Pritchard, who I'm not defending, made a good point that he said that. He said, well, everyone's saying Stephanie left because of this. You don't know what you're talking about. Are you Stephanie? Are you backstage? Are you anybody no, you are not in the process. So people from the outside giving opinions from what the media is telling you, we have to remember in life, right? And this is with everything. We as people who are not in it only hear what we are being told we can hear. We're not
Yeah.
hearing anything else. And now I know this chick has all this proof and everything, but even in the documentary, they did defend Vince in that sense, that they said, the lawyer, I think it was the lawyer, the journalist who put it out there. He said, I understand we are only reading the text that we were given.
Yeah.
So once again, out of context, you don't know if all those other texts in there, she's saying like, yeah, daddy, give it. Ooh, yeah, daddy, I want to be so punished. I don't care that you're my boss. You know, once
Right.
again,
Yeah.
nothing is proven right now. So technically, and I'm not defending Vince or anybody, technically, the only thing Vince has done wrong is being a boss and going after somebody who works under him, which is in most companies frowned upon and could be terminable
Fireable.
or
Yeah.
and fireable. Sorry, thank you. Nothing is against the law in that sense. You can just like, unless it did have something to do with money, which they did say. So maybe there are more legal. I'm not a lawyer. I think so. If you give somebody a raise for, but you're
Yeah.
having
And
a
hush
relationship
money
with them,
and
I
pay
think
to
a
keep them
hush money. I
quiet.
think, yeah, pay. But that was an NDA, right? And aren't NDAs not illegal? So if you're signing an NDA and paying, I think that's not illegal, right? That's what I mean. I don't know. I don't know the whole due. So, but I'm not saying like what everyone's trying to get him for so far hasn't been proven. Even the Brock Lesnar thing hasn't been proven. Nothing.
No.
It doesn't even say his name.
Yeah.
It doesn't say, and there's no text from Brock. There's nothing that Brock, but we've ran Brock up into the hills. This is what I'm saying, man. And this is what's hard in life, right? Because when you're somebody and you get an allegation, allegations are taken. It's like Diddy right now. Do I think Diddy's a disgusting person? Yes. Do I think Diddy probably did all the things? Yes. But I can't say he did. It's not proven. There's no
until it's
proof at
proven.
the moment. They have baby oil, bro. That's it. Like we haven't seen anything in life on what's saying. Now, I'm not saying he isn't. I'm not saying Vince isn't. I am 100% for women, but I'm all in for due diligence, but I'm also for innocence, man. You can't just say witch and then let's burn them.
Look at like
stake.
the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, for example.
100%.
When the media came out, they were going after Johnny Depp, like, oh, he's an abuser. He's a domestic, like cancel Johnny Depp. Like they took him out of all the upcoming Pirates of the Caribbean movies because of his allegations. And then he goes to court and they're like, wait, she's not really all that. I mean, she basically said she was crazy, and she ended up having to pay him money.
Yes,
for his what was it, defamation of character.
Yeah, because they found evidence, actual evidence, and they had to dive deep. There was embarrassing shit in there that to prove somebody wrong, and I think that will be the case in this as well. I don't think he'll be innocent, and I don't think Janelle's going to pay Vince McMahon. I think Vince McMahon is going to be found of wrongdoing. No matter what whether it's sex trafficking or not, no matter what it is, he'll be found of wrongdoing. But I think we're going to find more as well. I don't think if she wants to go with this and it's going to go to court, bro, they're going to pull she's going to have to show everything. And I don't think everybody wants to show everything. I think some people are hoping to settle and to get out of that. I also do think that Vince McMahon would still be in WWE right now if he didn't sell the company.
Oh yeah,
I think if he would have stayed and didn't sell to TKO, I think he was ran out by TKO. He didn't run out by his own. I think Vince would still be doing his damn thing, in my opinion.
Well, when he sold the company, he sold it to TKO, and he was like the executive chairman of the board or whatever. So he now he got to own he had Dana White reporting into him, and I think Nick Khan reported into him. So yeah, he still technically oversaw the WWE, and then these allegations came out, and then he resigned. So I think you're right. I think he would still. I'd be curious to know what the WWE landscape would look like right now, because he was always like, oh well, Triple H is in creative and I'm just in the weeds. Triple H is in creative, but we were at that Raw after WrestleMania. Vince ran that Raw and it was god awful. So I do wonder. And that was another thing I wish they would have touched on a little bit in the documentary was.
So that's what I was going to ask. What are some things that you wish?
When Vince weaseled his way back in and he talked about, or just, I wish they would have talked about him kind of losing it creatively. Like we saw all the genius of Vince McMahon of the Attitude Era and all the cool storylines that he brought and some of the cringy stuff that he put together that helped make so much money. But I wish they would have shown how he started the thoughts internally of why he made certain booking decisions. Why did he have Brock Lesnar take the belt off of Kofi Kingston in 17 seconds? And why did he have Goldberg beat the Fiend at hell, like when the Fiend was red hot at Crown Jewel? You know, just like when did he, like, I wish they would have shown more of him losing it creatively to the point where, okay, now we got to get this guy out of here. What's the best way to get him out of here is to, you know, maybe these allegations come out. And now look at how the WWE is going up when it was going down with Vince running the show.
Yeah, I agree with that. Those were the few things I was going to say, things that we were hoping that we saw and we missed on. I feel like the first 4 episodes weren't about Vince.
No,
they,
it was a
they
history of the
sprinkled
WWE.
a little bit. It was a history of the WWE. Then episode 5 was got a little bit deeper. That was the one where it was all about the family and this. And then episode 6, it kind of finished, and it was more about Vince. The last 2 did dive more into Vince, but not enough. We still had pointlessness of like the streak being broken. Why do I care? And they didn't even dive into why. It was just like day Vince decided, well, we already knew that. And what did that have to do with the story?
Yeah.
It was very weird things.
I wish they also would have gone into, you know, like CM Punk walking out of the WWE. You know, like let's talk more about that, because that was a big moment. The whole, you fired him on his wedding day, the whole court case that I know you probably can't talk about that because it's court and litigation, but like, but we could get Vince McMahon's thoughts on it, and what happened, and then, as crazy as it's going to sound, I do wish they would have talked a little bit more about AEW. You know, like, and not to the point where like we needed a whole episode dedicated to it, but just more like, because these interviews were taking place in 2021, 2022. AEW was thriving in 2021, 2022. This wasn't current AEW where they can't sell out a building and the ratings are bad. This was when AEW was getting millions of viewers. And so I do wish they would have talked a little bit more about, you know, is this deja vu for Vince? Another upstart wrestling company coming on to a Turner network that's taking a lot of the current WWE talent. What are his thoughts about this company? You know, what happened with Triple H when he was running NXT, and then AEW beat them in the ratings. So Vince kind of came in and took over NXT to try to get back at AEW and moved NXT off of Wednesdays and moved it to 2. So I wish they would have talked a little bit more about AEW other than the 5 seconds they mentioned where it was like, we have an upstart wrestling company. WWE's thriving. There's a wrestling company over on Turner and we took their EVP. Ha ha ha. And that was it. That was really all they talked about with AEW.
I thought it was funny. Here's my thing. I thought it was too. That's what I'm getting at with when Bruce Pritchard came out and was like, oh, I've seen clips of this documentary. All you're doing is attacking Vince McMahon. It's a witch hunt. It's a blah, blah, blah. I didn't think so. I didn't think they made Vince look bad at all, other than a few things. The allegations, that's not making him look bad. That's real life. You have allegations against facts. You, bro. Yeah. These are things that, these
this is in the court
out. Yeah, this is like legit. Like, I don't think they were ever once like, you know, as a disgusting human being, Vincent Kennedy. No, I don't. I think they just did. Now, did they interpret things? Yeah, but I think they did it the same way to help him. And I think this was a prime example of where they helped him, because it was like, oh, AEW, thriving company, helped by Cody Rhodes, who then left 3 years later to come back to WWE. And then they instantly cut to a thing where Cody's literally telling Vince, thank you so much for coming to get me. Thank you so much for coming to get me. Like, that was making him look good. There was also scenes too where the people in the back were loving Vince. There was a scene where he came back from his match and all the female wrestlers all hugged him. And like, those aren't things that were forced upon him. If they were really that upset backstage, you know what I mean? Why would they be all over him? And it's just like, even the love from his son and daughter, like Shane to this day, like he treated him like this, he did this, but I love my father. Like, my father is my father. And even when he got a hug, you can see in that hug that Vince was also teared up. That wasn't fake. That was like real life emotion and I just think it went both ways. I think there was times where they manipulated to make Vince look like a bad guy, but also that made him look like a good guy, which might be real. With that said, real quick, I think we should end on all the positives that we like. But with that said, do you think, before we get into the positives, that this changed at least your mind on anything? Do you think differently, or worse or more of Vince, or the WWE, Triple H, Stone Cold? Like, who in this thing do you think leaving this Like, all right, I think a little bit more of this or a little bit better, or it don't matter. Like
I
Vince, how about Vince? Like, are you
yeah.
just Vince is Vince? You already
So
knew this, or
yeah, I what's crazy is it's not so much the documentary about the part about the allegations that changed my mind about Vince. It was the Chris Benoit stuff that they talked about and the Owen Hart stuff that changed my mind about Vince.
good,
You know,
good job.
everything else you could say is, oh well, that's Vince being Vince. You know, oh, you know, he wants to do an incest angle with Stephanie McMahon. You know, everyone's laughing about it, and you know, oh, that's just Vince being Vince.
Mhm.
LOL. But you know, making Trish bark like a dog. Well, that was just, you know, he was trying to tell a story, and that was
Yeah,
just the boss being the boss, and you do what the boss says.
yeah.
But the Owen Hart stuff with wrestlers wrestlers literally wrestling on with blood on the canvas, Owen Hart's blood on the canvas, immediately or not, right there after Owen Hart's
Pretty
tragic fall. I
immediately.
mean,
Yeah.
pretty close to immediately after. That's when I lost a lot of respect for Vince, knowing that, like, I've always been of the mindset that, you know, that I didn't think the show, they should have canceled the show. They should have stopped it. It should have been done immediately. But I was also kind of like, but I can kind of understand, like, you know, from wrestlers' perspective, you know, they would want to, this is what Owen would want, and Owen wouldn't want he would want the show to go on.
Mhm.
But then I saw the blood on the canvas and I was like, no, you got to cancel that show. You send them home, get them out of
Yeah.
there, get everybody out of there, and you know, you do what's right. That's not right for the wrestlers to do. I mean, this guy literally died, and you're over here making them wrestle on his blood. And I never noticed that watching that pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think the one main thing that changed me about Vince is that, that made me think lower was that I always knew he was a businessman, but watching this documentary, at least the way they painted it, is that
Mm-hmm.
he will only do good if it's for business. So
Yeah.
Shane, he never hugged Shane, never did that kind of stuff. Shane came back just to have this match with him and put on a hell of a match. He hugged him, finally gave him respect. See the you know, CAT scans and the brain and all that stuff. Only did it because best for business, right? Business had a boom, we have to change. Steroids, we're getting to a thing, we have to change. So yes, did Vince McMahon do good things and positive things? Yes, but only when it pertained to business. The Ashley thing. I know I said, you know, this and that or blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing, right? Vince McMahon denied ever knowing about it or hearing about it. Now, I have to call bullshit on that because there's other people who have come out and said they knew about it. So as a boss, I've been a boss before, you hear everything. There's not one
Yeah.
thing. So if Vince even caught wind, even if he's going to tell the truth and say Ashley never told him that this happened, that she was raped at this event, he heard about it. And when you hear about it as a human being, rape is the worst possible, almost top 3 worst things that can happen to a
Oh,
human being
absolutely.
on this freaking
Mm-hmm.
earth, other than things with children. And you're going to not go confront her and ask her, hey, what happened in this? And then not make it a point just because it has to do with the military and you're some proud American. F that. Like, you know what I mean? So
Agreed.
there are
Yeah.
things, even the first female referee and stuff. I mean, there are things that
He even said something about the statute of limitations. He was
that's what I
yeah.
was. Yeah. So he only does good things when he knows it's for the business. It's going to benefit him. And that's the kind of thing that made me think, okay, so you are just like, you're a robot. You're not a human, because humans understand empathy and stuff like that. And he
Yeah.
did it. Everything, even Chris Benoit, even when that happened, he only did that because it made his business look bad. If it
Mm-hmm.
didn't make the WWE look bad, Benoit would still be in the history books. He didn't give two shit if they killed his family. It's all about business, and it
Yeah.
made the WWE look bad.
And
That
to
was
that
my
point,
thing.
yeah, and to that point too, he, in one of the episodes, either 5 or 6, he was talking about retiring, and he was like, I'm never going to retire. I don't respect people who retire, because you're
Mhm.
basically saying, like, you're just going to go die. So to all those people who
Yeah,
want to
that was
retire, like,
weird.
I was like, that's really weird to say. So obviously he only cares about the business. He only cares
Mhm.
about his business, and
Mhm.
he's only looking out for himself. So I did get that he's, if it involves Vincent Kennedy McMahon and puts him in a positive light, he's all for it. If it puts him in a negative
Mhm.
light, he will make the changes to better his business. But he's a
Yeah.
businessman first.
Yeah. And we already talked about Stone Cold and that and this. One last thing. We have to bring up Bret Hart. So
Oh my
I didn't
gosh.
think I could think any lower of this man. I've always thought Bret Hart was the most disgusting person, probably next to Vince McMahon. But Bret, he made one comment, which it looked, we talked about this off the record, that it looked like it was the same interview. So why even state it? But he basically said after Owen passed, he assumed that Vince McMahon did it on purpose to get back at Bret Hart. Like Vince McMahon straight killed Owen
Murdered
Hart,
his brother.
murdered his brother to get to him because he left an organization, even though Hulk Hogan left and came back and all these people have left. But for whatever reason, Vince hates Bret and he needs to murder his brother. It literally floored me as somebody who would think like, I get that you go through things, but that interview was done that was like a recent, at least a few years ago interview. And then it was proven that it was not Vince's fault. Maybe it was cheap hiring or whatever, but it was not a planned death. And Bret then goes on and says, oh, and then I forgave him because I realized it was. Then why did you make that? Bro, like Bret Hart is so messed up in the head that he would even think, oh, I should say this line just because it's how I felt at the moment. Bro, if you felt that way in the moment, keep it to yourself, dude.
Talking about how he hit him with how he hit Vince with an uppercut, and like Vince went flying like in the game, the video game Street Fighter, and Hadouken, boom, that's what, and then like everyone else was like, no, like, or Bret was basically saying that we locked,
they were pulling him off him, and
we were grappling. It was like a wrestling match, and people were grabbing me and pulling me off, and I got a good uppercut on him, and then everyone else was like, no. Vince walked to him and said, punch me. And that's what happened.
He punched him. Yeah. And then Vince walked out in the end. The thing with Bret is that we have to know, we all need to feel sorry for him because he is messed up and there's something wrong. I mean, he even said as soon as Hulk Hogan left, we had a bunch of young guys who were ready to step up. Guys like Bret Hart. I'm like, you're Bret Hart.
5 seconds into the documentary.
What?
5 seconds into episode 1, they're interviewing Bret Hart, and he's talking about how wrestling is an art form, and it's two people painting a picture and telling a story in the ring, and he was basically, and then he's like, and I was the best artist, and I was like, 5 seconds in, man, this documentary is not even 5 seconds old, and you're talking about how you're the greatest artist of all time. It was just, I don't know, very self-serving.
You know who doesn't talk like that? Tom Brady. You want to know why Tom Brady doesn't talk like that? Because he's the best. He doesn't have to say it. That's like what I always said. If you are in a relationship and you post on Facebook constantly and Instagram that you're in a relationship, you're probably in an unhappy relationship. If you have to tell the world that you're something, you're usually not. And that's just how it is. All right, last thing before we go down to positives, Roman Reigns. Did you not notice that Roman Reigns was 100% left out of this documentary? You think that means anything? Or
I was going to bring that up.
Left out 100%.
Yeah.
100% left out.
I mean, they showed his image, and
that
likeness.
Was just
they showed clips of people acknowledging him. That was
a big figure to leave out.
And I'll be honest, like The Rock, I thought The Rock would have had more of a presence in this documentary. He was in a couple of episodes. He did a couple of interviews.
Those look like old recordings too. I wonder if he,
And The Rock came back and he was on the board. Would he be on the board if Vince was there? Is there a reason that Rock didn't come back at WrestleMania 39 when it was reported that Vince had weaseled his way back in? So I do wonder if, but I did notice that Roman, who is the face of the company, screw Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns is the face of the WWE. And
obviously.
And he is not, and they even put, I did find it funny with Cody Rhodes, they put WWE star Dusty Rhodes' son. That's what they didn't put WWE champion. They didn't put WWE superstar. They put WWE. I think they put WWE star and Dusty Rhodes' son. I was like, okay,
that's sad.
But yeah, Roman Reigns not being there. That was kind of telling. That was kind of telling because all we've heard about is how much Vince loved Roman and Vince wanted Roman to. But then there's reports that, I mean, there's reports that came out that Roman wasn't going to come back unless he turned heel, and Vince didn't want to turn him heel. So maybe they did have a little bit of a falling out. Paul Heyman's in there a little bit, but not quite as much. But yeah, it was very, very alarming to not have Roman Reigns on there.
I mean, Heyman was there for the clicks. He was like, he made everything he said was like, wha-bam. There was no messing around. All right, we got to close this up. So what are some things? What are the positives? Let's end on a positive. What are the things you liked from this documentary? Things you enjoyed or learned
So
or
yeah, I mean, I learned a lot of as I said before on our AEW episode, I didn't realize the stuff about Wendy Richter
yeah,
before about
yeah.
how she refused to drop the title, and Vince was like, "No, you're going to drop the belt." And then even Wendy Richter to this day is very much like, "Yeah, I understand. He was a businessman."
Weird, huh?
And meanwhile, Bret Hart's still over here like, "I can't believe Bret that he wouldn't let me leave with the title. I mean, why I can't believe he screwed me over. Like, we're
Mhm,
35 years ago. Like, stop it."
mhm.
um
Brett
but
screwed Brett. Mhm.
yeah, I mean, there were I liked I did learn a lot about Wendy Richter. I really liked Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas pulled no punches in this thing. He was just
No.
he
And
was
he
so
loved
funny.
Vince too. He
Yeah.
loved Vince too. He looks like someone who would defend him right now. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was like, he was talking about Pat Patterson. He was like, I didn't like him because he grabbed my pecker. He was just very like,
Mhm,
very just
mhm.
straight to the point. So I really liked him. But yeah, I mean, I thought this thing was well done. I thought it was a good docu series. I do wish there were like 6 episodes. I feel like it's too short. I feel like maybe
Yeah.
should have been maybe one or two more.
Mhm.
Because there's a bunch more stories that they could have told. But I appreciated everything that they did.
Yeah. It's yeah, Tony Atlas. Yeah, I mean, things that new, I don't really know. I mean, a couple of things that I was shocked that I found out that was new was the Hulk Hogan stuff. For one, Hulk Hogan with the union, like going to Vince and ratting it
And
out.
finally admitting
And
about
then
Jesse Ventura. Yeah.
for Jesse Ventura, and then Hogan going to WCW and then being called into the steroid trial. I was young during that time. I was in high school, so it's not like I was paying that close attention to what that he went and basically told the lawyers, yeah, I'll tell all. And then on the court defended Vince McMahon and basically won that case for Vince McMahon. That was intriguing stuff to know
Yeah.
how much of like a Vince guy Hogan was when I
Yeah.
always was taught to be told that Vince and Hogan hated each other. That's why
Yeah.
Hogan left, because they hated each other. But it seemed like Hogan's a pretty, and Eric Bischoff has stated that on 83 Weeks, and people don't believe it, that he said Hulk Hogan is the most loyal person you will ever know. And I think that proved Eric Bischoff
Y-
correct, man.
Yeah.
Pretty
I,
damn
I
loyal, dude.
I didn't realize that either. I didn't realize that he told them he would testify against
Yeah,
them, and then he goes
man.
into court and
Suck it.
he like does an about
Collusion.
face. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and then yeah, and the crazy thing too is it just shows you how loyal Hulk Hogan was. I did learn about the him ratting out Jesse Ventura and starting the whole
Mhm.
union thing, and I was like,
Yeah.
so I mean, that's always been speculated, was that Hulk Hogan was a stooge for Vince, and I mean, he
Mhm.
basically confirmed it, and that's one
He
of the reasons
was.
that
Yeah.
Vince and Ventura had a falling out, and he left. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the Hulk Hogan thing. That was new to me, and the crazy thing too, the point that I escaped my head a minute ago, but I got it back. When they feuded at WrestleMania 19, they made it. I
Mhm.
mean, that was a big part of that storyline, was you went to
Mhm.
court and testified against me. So I was,
Mhm.
like you said, this whole time I was taught that Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon hated each other, and that
Mhm.
was the reason that they testified against each other in court. I mean, it was a huge.
Mhm.
Go watch that video package for WrestleMania 19 of
Oh
Vince
yeah.
versus Hulk Hogan. It's all over it, like how he
Mhm.
went to court to testify against him. And so I was like, oh man, like Hulk Hogan's a piece of shit. Like get him,
Yeah.
Vince. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Get him, Vince.
and it turns
Do
out,
it for us regular guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
it turns out that he's just a Vince loyalist, and
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
who knows?
And other than that, like some of the hypocrisy that Vince said, when he basically took all the territories over, and then when
Oh
Eric
yeah,
Bischoff did the same thing, he was like, "Well, that's
that's
different."
not the same.
When it's not,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, because he's just so business minded, and the fact that he wouldn't even admit, he admitted it, but wouldn't admit how much he stole from Bischoff and WCW, and it was like, well, yeah, NWO and D, and well, I mean, well, we did it better, so it's like, just
yeah.
say, like, yeah, man, they were beating us. We took, I
He
mean,
was like, if
Facebook made a
that's
whole
what's
movie about stealing from MySpace and they survived. Like, just admit you took from them and did it better. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
yeah,
what are you going to get sued now? Like, you own it. What's that? But the last thing of
exactly.
surprise too was Trish Stratus. And we talked about this before we
There we
recorded
go.
that. Trish Stratus set the record straight, bro. Everyone's been over here. Whoa, is Trish. Oh, Vince McMahon, he must have been doing that stuff with her. And if they were kissing, then it was forced. Trish basically came out and said
No,
no. She did admit that there was where she thought she was being punished, but that's all freaking work. If people want to take that the wrong way, where she said she didn't want to do something, and then if my boss asked me to do something and I say no, I guarantee you my boss is going to think less of me after that, and probably not want to be as I say yes to my boss about everything. Obviously, it wouldn't be for sexual favors. But what I'm saying
Right.
is my boss is like, hey, can you say extra? Hey, can you do this? I always say yes because that's your boss and that's how life is. You do that with your wife. You do that with your parents. You want to look bad. So, but Trish basically came out and said, no, man, like I was in on it. I agreed to all of it. Vince was in on it. This is a show. This is entertainment. None of this is real. Linda was in on it. Linda agreed to her kissing her. Linda had no problem watching them kiss. It's acting. None of it is barking like a dog. She's like, I can get why people thought it was bad, but it led to the final match at WrestleMania where I got the comeuppance. I was treated like dog crap. If this happened on Game of Thrones, this exact scene happened on Game of Thrones, no one would care. It's all because it's WWE. And that's what I love, that all these insight people on TikTok and stuff who are all, oh no, Trish hated it and this. I'm glad she set the record straight and says to this day she still respects Vince. And she doesn't need to say that. Why would she need to say that? She is doing fine in life. She can
even in the documentary at the very end, they show Stone Cold Steve Austin. He was like a father to me. John Cena, he was like a father to me. The Undertaker, that man was like a father to me. Trish Stratus, he was like a father to me. Shawn Michaels. So they all said it except for Bret Hart. But yeah, Hulk Hogan even said it. So the fact that she's willing to say that just tells you her relationship with Vince, that it wasn't all, like you said, she probably thought she was being punished. She said, I thought I was being punished for something, but I mean, we were telling.
And she even said, not proven. That Mickey James, when she lost the title, she said, not proven, just a coincidence. I lost it 2 weeks later. Was it planned? I don't know. Even she isn't just saying 100%. And even though, go ahead.
I was just gonna, and Linda even pitched ideas for this story to Trish, to Vince, and Linda doesn't really want to be on camera all that much, and doesn't want to be on promos and all that, but she's pitching ideas for this, so she was clearly on board.
100%. And just because Vince did wrong to certain females, which I'm assuming he did, you know what I mean, with these people that he paid off, and the first referee and Ashley Macario and Sable or whoever else, I'm sure things were true. Yes, 100% in this new case, but it doesn't mean that means he was evil to everybody. So like some people do think Vince was never mean or upset to him. Some of the good things though, I like the stuff on Stephanie. I like the stuff on Shane. That was humanizing, which Bruce Butcher said wasn't happening. It was. I like seeing that kind of stuff. Very much so. But I do wish that we would have just got more Vince. I wanted more. They have to have so much footage of Vince, and maybe WWE wouldn't give it to them. I don't know, but I wanted to see more. Every time they showed him behind the scenes, whether him and Stephanie looking bomb as shit in her like full gear, watching Shane wrestle, and you can tell Vince was proud. He was like in it. He wasn't, and I liked seeing too. I don't know if you noticed, there was parts where Vince was talking and Michael Cole was repeating everything he said. We've always been told that they hated doing announcing with Vince because he just would not shut up and he told them what to say. And now Michael Cole isn't told what he says. So I did like that they showed things like that. I like seeing Roman backstage. I like seeing them come back. Who's watching the matches? Who's hugging? All the girls hugging Vince.
Yeah, that's
people clapping when people get. Yeah. If you're going to go behind the scenes, I want to see Vince. And I don't feel like we got it. I think it was just mostly interviews and about WWE. But overall, I would say it was about like an 8. I give it an 8 out of 10. I thought it was enjoyable. I didn't hate it. I at all. There was not any time where I was bored or anything, but I was hoping as a hardcore fan that I would get a little bit more out of it. Some more few details. I got a couple, but not enough for my liking.
Yeah, I give it about a 7 out of 10. I thought it was good. I wouldn't say it was necessarily great. And really because the episode, like you could watch episode 1, episode 5, and episode 6 and be completely fine and get a lot out of it. Episodes 2, 3, and 4 really
attitude era.
That was attitude era, screw job, Monday Night Wars. And so it's just really, that's a history of the WWE. I wanted, like you said, I wanted more Vince. I wanted to see more Vince interactions. I wanted to learn more about Vince's, isms, the Vince isms out there that, apparently if you sneeze in front of him, he gets mad. Like I wish they would have shown some of that stuff or dove into that a little bit more. But yeah, I wanted more Vince and less Montreal screw job, and because we already know that stuff, and less Monday Night Wars because we already know that stuff, and less Attitude Era because we already know how the Attitude Era came to be. Let's talk about other things besides that. So yeah,
another thing I was surprised I forgot was the concussion part with Chris Nowinski, and he adamantly defended Chris Benoit. I mean, he basically said, I know Chris, he was a great person. This is 100% concussions. I'm not a scientist. He obviously is way more in depth than I am. I don't agree with that. I do agree with other people. I forgot who said it, where they were like, I don't care, concussion, steroids, that's not going to make you all of a sudden become a murderer. Do I think it can make you go crazy? Yeah, but once again, just my opinion. My opinion. He's more of an expert if he's saying it, but I do think he said that because he had a relationship, and I defend that. Just like the people who are saying they still love Vince. You have a relationship with someone, it is hard to just get rid of it because they do something wrong. But I thought that was, but I did like the concussion things, and I like that they did bring him in. That dude had one concussion and was like, I'm out, and I'm gonna like,
and everybody made fun of him for
Smart
it.
Man. Well, but he even said today, people don't like. I do. I don't know if that was recorded a while ago, because the NFL now, I mean, you hit your head once, they pull you out, and you usually don't come back. Not a lot of people come back, and they usually have to sit out a whole week. So I do think they are taking it seriously because of people like him and the science he's put into it. But but nothing will ever be perfect, man. I mean, we're all about the money and the entertainment. So
but overall, it was a good documentary, good docuseries. And hopefully we get more of this when WWE comes to Netflix. You know, it's fun watching stuff on Peacock. It's fun watching, you know, some of the behind the scenes stuff there, but it's also fun when you get, you know, unbiased quote unquote parties, not the WWE producing something, but like a non-WWE person producing a docuseries about something WWE related. That's always a lot of fun to watch. And this was a fun watch. It was a good watch.
Hey, Netflix, man, that's why they're the king of docos, man. They do them right.
They do great.
All right, that's it. That's our review on Mr. McMahon. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. Hopefully you've already seen it, or you just got a bunch of spoilers. And hopefully you enjoyed this. Yeah, we're going to try to do this more often, right? If there's any other specials coming on WWE and everything, we'll do that, review it. And don't forget, we still got our WWE and AEW coming up this week. A lot of jam-packed stuff, so tune into that.
The big week.
It is. And always, I'm the Heartbreak Dude Denton. You can get me at HBD Denton on any of your social media that you just want to listen to me talk about nothing. And me, as always, has to be somebody right next to me.
Yep, it's Ryan Enjoys Wrestling. Go hit us up on all of our social platforms at Two Dudes with Attitudes on TikTok, at Two Dudes PC on X. Go hit us up on YouTube. Subscribe. Hopefully this video gets some views, and we can get some traction going, because we're at 1,260 followers there. We want to keep growing. We're on Twitch now when we do go live at 2dudes_with_attitude. So go follow us there. And then if you're listening to us on audio and Spotify, we appreciate all the love and support. Drop us a 5-star rating and review, and tell everyone about the Two Dudes with Attitudes, because we're blowing up, man.
Brett's good. Brett, let's go.
That's right.
We out. Two dudes with attitudes, let's go. It's the two dudes and our attitudes, ruthless, aggressively speaking, so let's do this. We're Ryan and Denton, they here to get your attention. The 5-star broadcast, start to the ending. Whether it's the E or it's all E, the two dudes with the attitudes will bring the heat. Get the point, it's on, time to lock in. Listen to the podcast where they get it poppin'.